Hello and welcome back to another Doctor Who figure review. In today's Doctor Who figure review, I'll be taking a look at the 5th Doctor and TARDIS from the Visitation, part of the new B&M line of figures. So the way this video is going to work is I'm going to do the packaging, do articulation in detail, and of course I will do my usual comparison section where I'll compare the Androzani TARDIS, what was released back in 2019, and I'll do a look at a comparison to the 5th Doctor figure from the Planet of Fire set as well. So if you have those figures, you basically can see what differences there are from the original releases. So without further ado, let's look at the packaging for this set. So taking a look at the packaging for the 5th Doctor and TARDIS from the Visitation. So we have the traditional style guide packaging motif, the Doctor Who logo there, the Gallifreyan text 5+, the scale of the figure, and the nice style guide design of the TARDIS. Then the nice window box display displaying the figures there, so you can check for quality control, the limited edition sticker there, exclusive Doctor and TARDIS set, and the name of the set there. Taking a look at the side of the box, so we get the side view of the TARDIS, and again the same sort of style guide motif for the packaging. And the back of the box, we've got a prototype image of the figures themselves, and a little bio on the Visitation. If you want to have a little read of that, then do feel free to pause. And the side of the box, we have the prototype image of the set there in Doctor Who, and the style guide packaging. So taking a look at the card insert for this set, so we've got the nice sort of forest background when the TARDIS materialises at the start of the story, and of course we do have the android, Grim Reaper there, which is very cool. So that's a nice little Easter egg within this little card insert. So here we have the 5th Doctor out of the packaging. Now this has been a highly desired figure for quite a bit, so it's great that B&M and Character Options are going back to the roots of these sets by doing sort of reissues of hard to get figures, but slightly tweaking it, because this figure has had some revised paint apps, and like I said, the Planet of Fire 5th Doctor is quite a sought after figure and quite a rare set to get, so it's great that people finally have the opportunity to get a season 19, season 20 hatted 5th Doctor figure. So let's look at the articulation for this figure. So taking a look at the articulation for the 5th Doctor, so the 5th Doctor's head can move side to side. The arms can do a full 360 degree turn, 360 degree turn at the bicep, bend at the elbow, 360 at the wrists. We do have waist articulation, what can do a full 360 degree turn. The legs are on a T-crotch joint, so they can kick out and kick to the side, but are hindered by the coat. The thighs do a full 360 degree turn and bend at the knee. So taking a look at the detail for the 5th Doctor, so we start off with the Panama hat. So the Panama hat's been done really well, as it's been given this sort of cream colour, and it does stand out against the 5th Doctor's rather beige costume. We've got the great creasing detail there and the very vibrant red hat band going all along the hat there, which is done really well. And I believe that the 5th Doctor's hat did have a pattern on it. It did have like a sort of polka dot sort of look to it, which is rather cool. But obviously the other 5th Doctor hatted variants don't have that, so you know, you can understand why Character Options haven't done it, because obviously it's quite an intricate thing to try and replicate on such a small scale. So, you know, very good attention to detail. So taking a look at the head sculpt, it definitely has a very sharp, crisp likeness to Peter Davison. You can definitely tell that it's Peter Davison. It's just done really well. The hair is done really well. We've got this nice sort of light brown base coat, and then sort of a blonde wash over it to really highlight these strands of hair there, to give it a sense of depth and texture to the hair, which is replicated incredibly well. And the likeness, like I said, is done really well with a slight dimpling and the lines on the face. It definitely does look like Peter Davison. It's a very sharp paint app for that. So the costume itself, I have to say, I think the paint apps on the costume are incredibly crisp, and probably some of the best the 5th Doctor's had, actually, and probably the most accurate 5th Doctor. If we take a look at the shirt, so obviously we've got the great little detail of the sort of red lining there, which is done really well, and inside the shirt collar. But the jumper's where it gets quite interesting, because I believe, just looking at photos, that this is the most accurate 5th Doctor jumper for the season 19 and season 20 5th Doctor. Because normally Character Options did like a blue line, but they've actually gone for the brown line, because it was brown, white, and then red, and then black. So this is the first time Character Options have given the 5th Doctor's jumper that sort of brown line, so it's very accurate. And the jumper, again, is done really well. As you can see, the paint apps are very crisp and sharp, and that sort of bright off-white colour really does pop against the 5th Doctor's costume. And again, we have the great wool texture detail on the jumper there, and the sort of elasticated waist on the bottom of the jumper. And of course, the 5th Doctor wouldn't be a 5th Doctor figure unless it's a Castroval 5th Doctor without the celery. And the celery's been done very well with a nice sort of pale white colour there, and the nice different green textures to give it that lifelike effect there. And again, we've got the buttons sculpted there, the sort of sectioning of the coat, and again, the pockets have been sculpted there with a slight creasing detail to give it that lifelike effect, which is done very well. And again, we have the buttons on the cuffs and the nice red trim and the red piping, which is done very well on this sort of much more darker sort of beige colour for the jacket, which does seem a bit more accurate in my opinion to how his costume is in the actual show. Again, we've got the seam on the jacket, then the sort of flap of the coat there, and again the button detail. So if we move down to the trousers done really well. Again, we've got the traditional sort of season 19, season 20 patterning on the trousers, which is done really well, very crisp, very white and vibrant trousers, which makes it sort of pop with the pattern. But as you can see, they haven't quite finished painting the lines on the trousers. I mean, that's probably an issue on all the other 5th Doctor figures actually, because I've got a few other 5th Doctor figures that have the same problem. I guess it's more down to the scale of the figure and trying to replicate that pattern onto such a small scale. You know, the trainers are very bright, as you can see, this sort of very bright white colour, and they're done very well. As you can see, you've got the sort of air holes on there and the sort of panelling detail on the shoes themselves. So the detail is very good, very crisp paint apps, and I absolutely love it. So moving on to the comparison section, so I bring in the Planet of Fire 5th Doctor figure. You can instantly see the differences straight away on how better the paint apps are on this B&M version. As you can see, we've got sort of a more sort of darker red colour for the Panama hat, and obviously the Panama hat seems to be a lot more lighter on the B&M one, as you can see, and the paint apps on the face do seem a lot more crisper in my opinion. Obviously the costume is where we get the noticeable changes. Obviously the different colour in the jacket seems a bit more lighter compared to the original one. It has more of a matte finish instead of this gloss. So taking a look at the differences in terms of the costume, you can definitely see a very vibrant difference. Obviously, like I said, the piping has more of a sort of a glossy finish, whereas this has more of a matte finish to it, and the coat does seem to be ever so slightly darker on the B&M one. But the jumpers where we get the main difference. You can see that the B&M one has the more accurate jumper because it has the brown stripe there instead of a red stripe what they give it on the Planet of Fire one, and then a blue line on the bottom, which is all very strange. And the celery seems to be a lot more lighter on the B&M one, and the jumper on the B&M one just stands out because it's this very bright white instead of this sort of creamy colour for the jumper, and it definitely does stand out. And you can see the differences on the trousers there, the different sort of patternings there. It seems a bit more vibrant with the red used on the B&M one, and the shoes on the Planet of Fire one have a slight bit of dirt on them to give that weathered look, but these have more of a crisp finish. And I have to say, I really do like the B&M one because it just seems a lot more accurate to how it appears in the actual show itself. So moving on to the TARDIS, which is incredibly exciting to have a clean 80s TARDIS box. I guess you could use this TARDIS for the season 18 4th Doctor as well if you wanted to. So I am absolutely in love with this TARDIS. I've always wanted a 5th Doctor TARDIS ever since it was I saw the prototype back in 2010, because this was originally going to be a Forbidden Planet exclusive with electronics, but that had never come to fruition. And now we've got a clean 80s box which just looks so stunning. And I'm gonna say this, I feel like this is probably the most closest to sort of quality in terms of the Forbidden Planet ones, because it has a matte finish to it, and it doesn't have that sort of heavy wash on it, so it doesn't have that sort of waxy texture to it, because the weathering this box does have is sort of been done sort of as a dry brush. So taking a look at the detail for the TARDIS, so if we take a look at the lantern, so we've got the great sort of stack there, and obviously we've got the great sort of panelled detailing on top of the lantern housing, which is done very well. The roof itself, again, we've got the grey sort of bubbling of the Artex and the wood grain effect, and we've got this sort of great sort of browny green sort of dry brush on it to give that sort of worn and weathered textured look to it, which I really do like. And again, we've got great detailing of the corner post there on the actual TARDIS itself, and again we've got the wood grain effect on the stacked roof there, and again we've got the panel detail there and the nice vibrant blue sign, which just really does stand out against this sort of more darker blue of the actual TARDIS itself. The windows have got this sort of nice little wash over it to give it that worn and textured look to it. Again, we've got the great sort of pebbled glass effect there in the actual windows themselves, and again we've got the great sort of bubbling of the Artex on the TARDIS side there, as you can see, and we've got the nice vibrant lock, golden lock on the TARDIS there, and the door handle, and the sign's been replicated very well. And again we continue the Artex and wood grain effect on the TARDIS, and we've got this slight sort of wash there, which really does help give it that worn and travelled look the TARDIS has. And we do have the thinner base, what was introduced back in 2019. If we move to the other side, exactly the same sort of detail with slight weathering there, and the Artex is more sort of prominent on that side, and the wood grain effect, which just makes the TARDIS seem, you know, very realistic, and it just looks absolutely stunning. You know, I love the slight weathering above the panels. It just helps it give that sort of lifelike effect, and that's what I love about the first Doctor Forbidden Planet TARDIS. You know, it has that slight weathering, and it just makes that TARDIS pop. And this is why I love this TARDIS, because it does have that slight weathering. On the back, we still have the speaker hole grille. There again, we've got the brown wash there, and the slight sort of weathering on the windows there, and again the same sort of Artex wood grain effect what the TARDIS does have, and again exactly the same detailing. And of course the 5th Doctor TARDIS does have the same feature as all the other classic TARDISes. It does have the opening door, so you can open the doors and display your figures, and of course this door just locks in place like so. And of course if you want to close the other door, you just press that button like so, and there we go, the opening doors are now shut. So I'll do a quick comparison to the Androzani TARDIS. So here we have the Androzani TARDIS. You can see the Visitation TARDIS seems a lot more lighter, maybe because this TARDIS is heavily weathered. But you can see it's got quite a heavy wash on it, the Androzani one, compared to the Visitation one. And obviously this has more of a sort of a matte finish compared to the sort of more glossy look to it, and obviously glossy look. The signs seem a lot more darker on the Androzani one. As you can see, the windows are more heavily weathered and more brown compared to the sort of more crisper, slightly greyish windows on the Visitation TARDIS. And obviously the main difference being the mud on the base. You know, this is a clean 80s TARDIS, so it's great to finally have one of those in the collection. But as you can see, you can really see the difference in sort of the quality, but this seems to be, maybe because it has a matte finish, it doesn't have that waxy texture, but obviously this has been heavily weathered with sort of the different washes. I guess that's probably what gives these sort of TARDISes that waxy texture. But I have to say that I definitely do prefer the Visitation one, because it just has that great sort of quality to it, and I just absolutely love it. So that is the differences with the Androzani and Visitation TARDIS. And here we have the classic TARDIS lineup. As you can see, the classic TARDIS collection has really come on leaps and bounds, and there it is, the Visitation TARDIS with the other 80s box. And doesn't it look absolutely resplendent to have the more darker 80s box, which I just absolutely love, because I do love the 80s TARDIS. So that concludes this review for the 5th Doctor and TARDIS based from the Visitation. So what are my thoughts on this set? Well, I really do like this set actually. I feel like if you missed the Planet of Fire 5th Doctor, then it's a great opportunity to pick up that sort of hatted variant of the 5th Doctor from season 19 and season 20. But if you're like me and you did have the original Planet of Fire 5th Doctor, then there is a reason to double dip, because they've updated the paint apps, making it feel very crisp and sharp. I have to say that is a real standout for this figure. You know, it definitely does pop on the shelf with the more bright white jumper, and obviously the jumper patterning being the most accurate, I believe, in terms of the season 19 and 20 5th Doctor. So it definitely has a reason to double dip if you have the original Planet of Fire 5th Doctor. The TARDIS, I love it. I've wanted a 5th Doctor TARDIS for a long time, you know, to be sort of pristine, and it's great to finally have that, because ever since I saw the prototype, I just really wanted that TARDIS variant, and it's great to finally see it released in the B&M line, and it just looks absolutely stunning. I just love the sort of darker blue on the TARDIS. I do like those sort of TARDIS with the sort of darker blue finish to them, and it's just great to finally have it, and I absolutely love it. So I definitely do recommend this set, especially if you missed the Planet of Fire 5th Doctor. You know, if you missed the Androzani TARDIS, then definitely this is one to get, because it is great to finally have the 5th Doctor TARDIS in the collection. But yeah, if you've double dipped like me, then there's definitely reason to go and get this, especially, you know, the TARDIS being the main selling point. And the 5th Doctor, like I said, the paint apps incredibly sharp, very crisp, and just overall just brilliant. I really do love this set. So thank you very much for watching this review. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next figure review, which will be of the Unit 1975 Terror of the Zygon set. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. So thank you very much, and goodbye.